Episode 53 of the Owl Triangle is here for you all, or the Owl Square, as some people like to call it, boys. Shout out. Love it. Well, we'll keep it as the Owl Triangle for the time being anyway. However anyone else wants to branch off it is up to them, I guess. But we've got lots of stuff to talk about this week. Obviously, Bellator Belfast just happened. UFC Atlantic City, Caolan Loughran, Rhys, McKee. Lots of action in the domestic scene as well that we'll talk about with Cage Legacy 21. Cage Warriors Dublin got a couple of fights announced as well. We're here. We're going to run all through it. As always, Andy Stevenson, Caoilte Barra, with me, Ian O'Neill. We're going to run through everything as best as we can over the course of the next hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours, depending on what we get in interviews and stuff like that. Andy, how are you keeping, lad? You're a bit under the weather. You're a little bit under the weather. You're unfortunately that the old sickness kept you away from.
No one wants to hear about that either. I'm not going to get pity from anyone. So
they're going to hear that musky. They're going to hear that muskiness there throughout this podcast. That deep like raspy. Yeah.
Hello there, ASMR.
Yeah, no, the bad old dose going around anyway. Caoilte, you look fresh and well. You look fresh and well too, Andy. That's a bit unfair to say it as you cough off camera.
Thanks, man.
The
mute button will be used heavily during this one.
Yeah, for sure. What's the crack with you?
Not much now. Flying it. Can't complain. I am feel a bit out of the loop here. I'm not wearing the fresh threads like Ian and his lovely hoodie he's got there, and the fresh threads of Andy as well. So
shout out Capture Athletics for the hoodie. Owl Triangle. The winner of the Owl Triangle of the Year will get one of these hoodies as well. That was, it was, who won the Owl Triangle of the Year?
It was Kikyo.
Kikyo. That's right.
It's in the post. It's actually in the boot of my car.
Andy's looking to try and sell it on eBay first.
Let's get into Ryan Curtis jersey. Look at that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I need to get myself one of those actually.
See his posts?
I did. We saw he posted out himself, which was brilliant to see. I don't know whether he does listen or not, but if you are, Ryan, fair play to you. It's good to see that you're on the road to recovery, and great to hear from you in person as well. So that was I saw that yesterday. It was really great to see. And we wish him the well, as always. Go and hit up the GoFundMe if you have not done so already. And if you like listening to the Owl Triangle, maybe we'll give ourselves a little bit of a plug as well. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. A 5-star rating on Spotify is something that will help us out quite a bit. Tell a friend, someone who's getting into mixed martial arts. If they want to know a little bit about the Irish scene, we'll do our best to kind of keep you filled in every 2 weeks or so.
And the video viewers, you've been slacking lately. Slacking. So this is a challenge. Get onto YouTube, give us the thumbs up, hit the follow, I don't know what it is. Do all that stuff you do. But
the cool kids do.
Get the numbers up, baby.
yeah. What was it that Matthew McConaughey was saying in The Wolf of Wall Street? Those are some rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers. That's what Sean and Graham are saying to us now behind the scenes. Not joke, they're not. We're here. Let's get into it. Bellator Belfast happened this past weekend. A huge fight. Carl Moore in the main event against Corey Anderson. We also had fights for Kieran Clark. We had fights for James Gallagher. We had fights for both Nate and Nathan Kelly competed on the card as well. And we're going to concentrate on those. We'll start with Carl's fight with Corey Anderson. A great experience for Carl. Look, things didn't go his way. He had a great start to the fight. Landed that big shot in the first round. Landed a big head kick that had Corey Anderson wobbled and on skates. Which forced Corey Anderson maybe to switch up his proposed game plan. But Carl was on here the last time, lads, and he said, this is exactly what was going to happen. He was going to go out and punch him in the face, and he was going to see what happens. And what happened was Corey Anderson tried to take him down and continue to try and take him down throughout the fight. Carl in what was a one-sided fight on paper, with the three judges' scorecards, 50-45, 49-46, 49-46. Carl did have some moments there, especially that armbar in the third round as well, which was crazy close. You're talking about inches away, if not millimeters away from him pulling that off. And I swear to God, he's some man to pull up an armbar for the size of him, ain't he, Carl? But look at a disappointing result, but and not so much disappointing performance, Andy. One that Carl will look towards, will build on. And I think there was something that he said directly after the fight that really stuck to me. He said this was Corey Anderson's third crack at a world title, and it was Carl's first. So, you know, he knows Corey Anderson, who has been there and failed again. You know, Anderson proved that, you know, he got over the line, and that will give some confidence to Carl moving forward. He'll learn a lot. You know, he wasn't absolutely dominated as the scorecards would suggest, but he was just had that inability. Corey Anderson just had that little bit more in the wrestling department. Carl was up and down, can land in punches as soon, but it's very hard to combat, you know, that kind of style and that pressure that Corey Anderson brought in. But look, a disappointing result, but lots of lessons to take home here for Carl Moore, Andy.
Yeah, like it's a weird one because like you're coming off it and he's lost 50, 45, 49, 46, 49, 46 in the scorecards. But like what you said, his demeanor after the fight, you know, oftentimes you'd see lads with their heads down, kind of dejected. Carl wasn't like that. And when we spoke to him last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, ahead of the fight, he was saying, if this is going to be a wrestling match, I'm worried, but it's a fight. Now, the reality is it kind of, while it was a fight and he had his moments, it turned into a bit of a wrestling match, unfortunately. So I definitely think Carl can keep his head high. You know, they were showing the stats on the broadcast before the fight, and how Corey Anderson had wins over 5 MMA world champions. He's a very, very experienced guy coming in here. We knew how dangerous he would be, and we knew it was going to be a tough challenge for Carl. But I would take a lot from it in that, you know, Carl's going to need to rebuild now and learn from this. And ultimately, it was the takedowns. Like it's the wrestling. That's the area that he needs to go and work on. But I thought that he showed moments, you know, the big moments, I guess, in the fight, the kind of emphatic ones where, you know, the arm bar, he cracked him early. And I thought that overall, you know, Corey definitely landed some nice shots on the feet at times in the fight as well. But I would say Carl probably won over all the striking exchanges.
Like he had the big, my takeaway was like Carl had the biggest moments of the fight, really. And it was just more so an accumulation of what Corey Anderson did over the rest that happened in all the rounds as well. Like you could argue that you could give that round that Carl won with the armbar, how close it was there. He landed some nice shots on the feet. Yeah, the third round. You know, he got up, landed some shots there. I mean, you know, not necessarily round one. If he didn't take as much damage as he did in round one, I would be probably scoring round one as well. And actually, one of the judges did score round one for Carl Moore, and one of the judges did score round 3 for Carl Moore. So, I mean, you know, there's a discrepancy there that shows how close it was in reality in comparison, Caoilte, to what we did see in paper with the judges' scorecards. You know, what was your overall assessment of the performance? And you know, if we were to be mildly critical of Carl, I would say the only thing that I would really pinpoint on was that lateral movement, moving backwards, where he found himself, you know, getting maybe caught up on the cage a little bit more often than he would have liked, which, you know, opened up some takedowns as well. And that's an easy fix, if you ask me, you know what I mean? And that comes with experience. And obviously it's easy for me to go and say that when I'm sitting here. I don't have Corey Anderson pressuring me and pushing me back against the cage too at the same time as well. But, you know, little small things like that. But those corrections, Caoilte, they're going to come with experience with Carl, really, aren't they?
Yeah, and like those little moments of takeaways that you can get from this now. The other side, as you said, very easily said, but when you have a lad with the experience of Corey Anderson putting the pressure on you and wrestling you, whole different ballgame. But he's felt it now. You know, he's felt what it's like to compete against a wrestler at that level and that caliber, and what he can do. But Carl had his, you know, as you said, the moments. Carl had his moments throughout as well. He was able to get up from a lot of his positions at times. He put on a very good account of himself, and there's a lot to take from it, a lot of positives to take from it, and how he can improve and go back again and potentially get a world championship opportunity in the future. The one kind of big takeaway when I was watching it, I was like, even though, because a lot of times you watch these title fights, and when the wrestling's so heavy and dominant at times, that you can almost concede that, you kind of think this could go. There's that little glimmer of a hope always goes, but with this fight, there always seemed like, Jesus, there's a chance here. Could be a moment here for Carl. I always had that. I was thinking, Jesus, he could actually do it here between the armbar, the head kick. There was even a head kick that he landed, but Corey Anderson caught it and took him down. those moments were always there. And I was thinking, Jesus, it was entertaining from that perspective because there was always that little bit of hope that he actually could pull it off. And that's what I really enjoyed about it as well. And yeah, look, a lot of positive takes from it to take from it, but shame about the result in the end. But yeah, look forward to see what kind of happens next week, Carl.
Yeah, maybe any final thoughts on the fight, Andy, or would you like to maybe kind of move over to maybe what's next for Carl more?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing to talk about, I thought there was huge support. Like, I thought that Carl had a massive amount of support by the main event, and I thought that this isn't really about the fight itself, but that package that they put out, and
yes,
we interviewed Carl on the last episode, and off camera, he kind of revealed to us that, look, his dad had been unwell, and that he doesn't really like kind of going into his personal life. But I thought it was brilliant that they did that Bellator did that, and that Carl was willing to kind of share that, because it was a beautiful moment. And his dad Kevin, the video we talked about in the last episode, the video of him celebrating and stuff after the win over Albrechtsen, I thought that was cool. But what kind of stood out to me after the fact was, we obviously focus on so he's going in there wanting to do this for his dad's after being unwell. It feels like this is the right moment for him to get that win, to get that title win. But then on the flip side, I saw Pete shared a photo of Corey Anderson in this suit after he's won. He's kind of fallen short a number of times, and he's finally gotten gold, and he's wearing a suit, and he's got this chain on that's his nephew who was murdered, and he'd gotten the suit, the exact replica of the suit, custom made specifically for this. So I know, it's not really about the fight itself, but it also is about the story of it, and that we focus on one side. Yeah,
we get caught up with all the action inside the cage, but like, there's much bigger fights, much bigger moments that do happen on both sides here. Obviously, Carl with his dad, and we were very glad to hear that he is on the road to recovery as well. And I'm sure the disappointment of the title loss will kind of be comforted by the situation surrounded by his dad and his recovery as well. And similar enough, look at Corey Anderson, who did dedicate that win to his nephew. Like PT did post, it was the replica prom suit that his nephew had worn, and a special moment and a real nice moment inside the cage for Corey Anderson after the fact as well. Want to move on to what's next for Carl, because I have a couple of ideas what I would like to see. Short term, maybe we get him onto that Dublin card against maybe a good name, a solid name, get him back in there if he's willing to do that. But overall, I think we need to be realistic around the situation with Bellator and how sustainable it is over the next number of years. So I think with a guy like Carl, the next road and the next run to the title, I feel anyway, I don't know what you lads think, should be under the PFL banner. And we should be having eyes on not this year's tournament, but maybe next year's tournament, and a good run during that regular season tournament in the States, where I feel that he was going to have some good matchups there, and a good chance to kind of gain that experience and make a real push for that bracket and for that title as well. What do you guys? Maybe I'll go to Caoilte first. What do you think, maybe, or what would you like to see in the not so distant future, I should say, for Carl Moore?
Yeah, I'd love to see him on the Dublin card. In terms of opponents, I've been racking my brain trying to think of one or two, and it came to me last night that maybe, is there any potential that if maybe not Dublin, but in like a London card, do we see a Carl Moore and Luke Traynor type of fight? Because the Traynor is pushing on a bit now, you see. And that's a big win that he got last night. I believe Leah McCourt said that, she'd like to see maybe a top 5 next, not a title challenger. So top 5, Carl's in there. I think it'd be a very good fight, very marketable fight too. But that's a great shout, Caoilte. I see you're nodding your head in approval as well, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly who I was thinking, because I was trying to, obviously the Bellator rankings are kind of defunct now, and I know they're doing this champion series, but is this a 1-year thing where they're kind of parading around their champions and then, it kind of just transitions over to Bellator or to PFL? We don't really know the long-term strategy here. So Luke Traynor went in, he was a guy kind of on the rise. He wasn't, up in the rankings necessarily when they existed and when Carl was up there, or he might have been maybe lower down in the top 10, but he's went in against a guy, Grant Neal, who we had kind of been circling as a potential opponent for Carl for a while. He goes in there, puts on a solid performance against Neal. I think that makes sense. Look, it's going to be a step back for Carl now. It's not going to be maybe the Yoel Romero's of the world. I think you take a step back against a really solid opponent against a Luke Traynor, 100%. And then go look for a big fight after that, come back, get a win or two, and look for a big fight again.
One step back for 2 steps forward, as the lad says. But yeah, very exciting. Look at all credit to Carl. Great moment for him just to get those kind of opportunities as well. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but plenty of takeaways and a very bright future for Karen Moore as well. We move on to James Gallagher versus Leandro Higo. And similar enough kind of analysis on this where, you know, the result will tell you is a unanimous decision, 29-28. And before we get down and into our breakdown of this fight, I feel it's something that we always have to kind of contest with when we have James Gallagher fighting, is that how under the microscope he is and how much people want to disparage him or belittle him or bemoan him or bemoan his skill set. And they kind of have a set of blinkers full of hate on, really, for James Gallagher for one reason or another. And I think it's unfair, and it's something that James had to do with. Now, we'll always call it down the middle, and I think it's our responsibility to do it. So, you know, I will say that I was very impressed with James overall, even though he didn't get the result. If we're to break down the fight, I think and we spoke about this ourselves, boys, before we even started recording. From the get-go, very tentative and a lot of respect being shown between two fighters, between Higo and Gallagher. I was very impressed with Gallagher's patience, with his feint work, and with his jab from the get-go. Was really controlling the stand-up, and it was causing Higo lots of kind of issues, and I think caught Higo somewhat by surprise. And I think the turning point for the entire fight came with that spinning back fist, to be honest. You know, it wobbled James a little bit, caught him by surprise, had him on the back foot. Higo did take him down and landed some shots to secure round one. And I think, you know, with that shot, it kind of made James a little bit tentative throughout the fight. A little bit more kind of, you know, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence to let loose on the feet a little bit. But came back in for round two. And it was a James round for me, to be honest. I thought he did very well in round two. Come back, landed some good right hands at the start. Higo responded. Weiss 1-2 from James and a couple of kicks as well. We got the low blow. And I think, you know, after that low blow happened in round two, Higo did come back into it a little bit. And then I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, well, you're not just going to focus on that part of the fight. Actually, James was very successful before the low blow happened. And then, you know, obviously, Higo coming back made it a close second round, 1-1. Round three was a Higo round. A big body lock takedown from Higo, big slam down, landed on top, landed some shots, got the back, and a clear third round for me. So rounds 1, rounds 3 for Higo. Round 2, in my opinion, for James Gallagher. Close round. If you wanted to go to Higo. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue too much, but for me, it was definitely round 2 was a James round for me. Breaking down the fight in totality there, Andy. I didn't give you probably too much to say from an analysis. Apologies, but what were your thoughts on the overall performance and maybe my assessment of people being maybe a little bit too hard on James sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, like I was, look, I think a lot of people were it doesn't really matter what a lot of people were saying, but I guess the criticism online was more so around the lack of engagement, I guess. But that was the two lads. Like it was two lads who were in there really feeling each other out, who I think both, especially in the grappling, respected each other's dangers. So you've got two guys who are probably thinking, when's this lad going to shoot? When's this lad going to shoot? When's this lad going to shoot? So they're giving each other a little bit more distance than they may usually. You know, the punches were probably a little bit of out of range for both of them, and then they were kind of relying more so on their kicks. I thought that James looks a lot more comfortable on the feet. I think he's shown that over his last number of fights. I do think that exactly as you said, the spinning back fist, it hurt him. But I was impressed by his ability to kind of look for his own offense off his back immediately there. You know, the up kicks, the leg locks. Obviously, Higo won that round. I think that the danger you put yourself in is when you're going for leg locks, you're open to taking some heavy shots from above, and I think he took a few. But look, it was a massive jump from Gonzalez to originally Kennedy and Higo, and I think James probably needs to have a couple of fights against the mid-tier ranking level opponents, like rather than the right up there at the upper echelon of the division.
Do you know
just to kind of, you know.
Oh, I was going to say, Aaron Jeffrey, but I forgot he's a middleweight. But someone along those lines of, you know, fairly well rounded, but you know, maybe another kind of a guy that's going to maybe want to look and take the fight down. Where, you know, where we see two kind of grappler, or maybe, you know, James is a mixed martial artist, of course, but obviously does rely a lot on his grappling. But when you have two guys that want to grapple, you can be led into a striking fight as well. I think, like, when it comes to the tentativeness, right, the tentativeness that everybody was giving out about, you got to put yourself into both guys' shoes, and especially into James's shoes, Caoilte, and you can kind of speak to this as well a little bit as well. You're coming in there with a fairly heavy hitter with Higo, so you can't stand toe to toe and just trade punches there. That's not what James had to do. So, but I thought what he did with his feints and with his jab was kind of forced Higo to reset. And I think it would have been a little bit foolhardy, really, for James to kind of go into the pocket and strike toe to toe with a guy that does have that explosive power like Higo, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it's hard to get into that range as well when you've got a lad he's a little bit longer with Higo, I found, and you know, he hits hard, and he wasn't biting on feints very often, which made it very difficult to kind of find for James to find his way in. But like, I can see how the tentativeness happened from both. It just they kind of clashed in that sense. I do feel like James did very well in terms of his feints, like you were mentioning there. But yeah, why would he go and just stand in the pocket and trade with a lad like that who has clear power? You got to be kind of calculated about these things and pick your moments, pick your opportunities, try and draw him in with the leg kick and then land another shot or grab a takedown from it. But it's it's just how it went, really. And I can see how it happened, and I think people are a bit overly critical of that perspective, because it is a very high level fight. At higher level fights, it tends to be a little bit slower at times because there's fine margins in the game, like. Absolutely,
100%. Andy, for James going forward, do you see 145? Do you see 135? You know, I mean, you know, ultimately James will make that call. He seems fairly happy at 145, but I mean, I think he's come in and he has a nice size for 145, but I think against some of the bigger kind of 145ers, he might struggle a little bit. And I mean, he did look to be outstrengthened in some positions on Friday as well, but you know, I think maybe coming in with that size and moving down in weight, and look, we don't want to promote weight cutting and stuff like that if he doesn't really need to. But what are your thoughts on the weight class that he's fighting? And obviously a guy who came up through the bantamweight division and is filling out a little bit more too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really feel too strongly one way or the other. Like if it's an easier cut, I would always kind of lean to going with the heavier weight class. But you know, he like, make no mistake, he's going to run into a lot bigger featherweights than Leandro Higo. But if I'm thinking about maybe what's next for James, I'm looking at like a guy like a Cody Law. Maybe stick him in against someone like that. And I would say for James, what I think more than anything is activity. Like you heard McGregor talking to Ariel, or I think he probably said in a few interviews, but activity. He was talking about activity and how you need to be active. And I think that's
consistency breeds success.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. But like, you know, James it's been very stop-start, and he's been more active. You know, he fought last August. He's fought now. So if he can kick on, like, I don't know, Dublin may be too quick of a turnaround. I don't know, but like, I really think that.
I don't think he would have taken too much damage, and I think it might be an option where you could stick him on that card, of course, if he wants to, and if he's looking for that activity.
It should be Dublin. It should be Dublin, because like, also it was brilliant to see him back fighting in Ireland. Like the pop that he got, you kind of forget, like Caoilte and Zombie gets all of the, and rightly so, gets a lot of the plaudits for the walkouts. But James Gallagher walkouts in Ireland are class. Like they're
pretty good. You mentioned Zombie. They absolutely made a shambles of the Zombie song for Carl Moore the other night. They cut it off before it even got going. But anyway, sorry. Side thought O'Neill strikes again. But looking for James, it'll be very interesting. I'd like to see him again on that Dublin card, like that Cody Law fight, somewhere in around that. We look to get to that march towards the title again. Kieran Clark, guys, we were saying it ahead of this fight, like polished, dominant, excellent performance from Kieran Clark. this is the type of performance that gives you the confidence to go and call your shot. And I was glad that he did call his shot after this fight. He needs to be fighting higher level competition. We said it, we spoke to him about that. And yes, he's a guy who will never turn down a fight. But with Kieran now, I want to see him fighting his own case here. He doesn't need to be defending his spot or where he is or defending his record. He needs to be fighting similar kind of fighters with the same record or fighting up now at this stage. And I think, if you ever had any doubt about that, all you need to do is go back and watch this fight with Darius Maffey, Andy, and it was just a tremendous performance by Clark.
Yeah, he was levels above. And we kind of knew this coming in. Like, we talked about the matchmaking. We expected, and I know Kieran was very respectful towards his opponent, but early on in this fight, immediately I was like, this lad is nowhere near Kieran's level, and I think that Kieran is improving. Like where he was going to kind of getting caught in previous fights in the striking exchanges, I think he looks a lot more crisp. His shots are nice and straight. Yeah. He's quick. He's
jab was on point again, wasn't it?
Yeah. I thought his striking looked brilliant, and look, we know how calm he is and how methodical he is with his grappling. And I thought that the most telling point of that fight was after the second round, where Maffey, God bless him, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He looked like he just was like, I didn't realize I signed up for this. And Kieran looked like he was out for a walk in the park, like hasn't barely broken a sweat. I think Leo pointed out that he was breathing through his nose still. It was a brilliant performance by Kieran, and we kind of expected this coming in, and he should absolutely be fighting. Like, I'm thinking matchups against the likes of Brett Johns or someone. Like, that's the type of caliber opponent that I'd love to see him in against at this point. Because we're gonna also Bellator. I might go in a bit of a rant here. Bellator PFL, you have a responsibility also, and it'll be the same. We'll talk about Nathan Kelly, but you've these lads who are going on these massive long win streaks, and rightly so, they're brilliant performances. But they're not. There's going to get to a point where they're going to have a jump in competition. But is this now going to be a jump from level 3 to level fucking 10, and they get thrown in the deep end almost because they haven't had that progressive, gradual build? It's all well and good to have these and the great performances, these great records, but you need to start building them progressively so that they're not just then all of a sudden 6 months from now thrown in against absolute world beaters having never fought that level of competition before. And that'll be my worry with that style of matchmaking. But sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No, but, it's an absolutely valid point, Andy. And I think if I'm completely with you. If I was to play a devil's advocate, maybe, and hand it over to Caoilte as well for his thoughts. With some of Kieran's previous performances, there was stages where he was hurt or did have to come from behind, right? But I still thought he did enough in those fights and proved himself to kind of get that jump. There can be no question after this one. I mean, the patience that he had on the feet, which would have gotten him in trouble in other fights. I mean, you get caught because if you're overzealous or you're trying to push for a finish. It didn't happen here. And I think the patience on the feet opened up the takedowns, which opened up the kind of, the grindy nature of his game, which absolutely swamped and he broke Maffey at the end of that second round. And that was, I would love to talk to him and ask him, was that the game plan? Slow burn, and then go for the finish in round 3. Is that what it kind of seemed like for you, Caoilte, when you were looking at the fight?
Yeah, it seemed like he was just dominant all around and just wear him down. Like this is a lad he was fighting that's never fought outside of the first round. So a lot of it is see what he's like in the second, wear him down, and chip away at him until the finish is there. Like they called for, did they call for the finish in between rounds? I couldn't hear it in the corner like that, but you'd swear they had, because he could have just finished it when he wanted, and he did. It was I
think there was a moment where John in between rounds was like, he kind of walked in the cage and was like, yeah, I don't really have much to say to you here.
What do you say?
Yeah.
You're making my life easy there, Kieran. Nice one. But no, great job and great performance. Let's talk about the two Nate Kellys. Let's talk about Nathan Kelly first. I mean,
before we do, can I throw out a potential opponent suggestion?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing what I've just said. That Bellator should, there needs to be kind of a jump, but not too far a jump. What about Danny Sabatello? Is that too much? Is that too much of a jump in competition?
Not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not too bad. Like, I mean, where are we, right? with Kieran is that he's clearly way better than the level of competition that he's been facing. So what's the harm in finding out? Let's give him a Danny Salvatello. Let's give him one of those highly ranked bantamweights and let's see what happens. He's either going to be ready and get the win, or he's going to go out there and test himself against the very best and see maybe some areas that he might need to work on. But it's a fight I think he deserves. It's a fight that I would love to see. I actually don't care who it is, but he deserves to be fighting a guy that either has a better record than him or a similar enough record than him. He cannot be fighting these 3-1 guys, 4-1 guys who, you know, you stay doing that. We've been watching MMA for long enough, lads. You'll stay doing that and you'll stay doing that, and one of these days someone will catch him. You know what I mean? Or someone will have a bit of luck and get him out of there. So I think, you know, and I'm glad that he said it after the fight. It's now time for him to be fighting and trying to take someone else's spot rather than him defending the spot that he's in right now. So I was delighted to hear him saying that. And you got to be fighting your own case here as well. But the Danny Sabatello fight, Jesus, to be.
And tell you what, there's a bit of a background there as well, because then you could have, he's been chasing the James Gallagher. So it's like, well, hang on, go out and fight my teammate there.
Yeah, get Kieran. Yeah, I tell you, you get a good challenge with Kieran as well. That's for sure. Nathan Kelly, vicious knockout, vicious elbow. If there is any reason why to introduce elbows into the PFL structure, Nathan Kelly gave everybody a reason to do so on Saturday night against Vika Singh Raheel. Speaking to me, he was very calm, cool and composed, very assured. Had a vision of an early finish, Caoilte, and he went out there and it probably came a little bit quicker than even he was expecting. But I mean, there ain't nothing like watching a flush elbow. As a Muay Thai purist like yourself, you must have been in heaven watching a finish like that from Nathan Kelly.
That's the frustrating thing before with the PFL. You could never see the elbows, but then that moment when he just got to throw, it's like, oh, the elbow pads are off now, and just smash one in, and it was brilliant to see. Not really much to say about the fight. That's what 8 first round finishes for him now. He's flying through it. Doesn't get paid overtime. Get in, get out. Lovely highlight reel finish. And it deserves a push now into either a tournament or just a big push really in terms of.
Because he's in a similar boat, isn't he, Caoilte? That what Kieran Clark is in as well. Like, I mean, he's proved that this level of test for him now at this stage is, it's too easy, to be frank. So we need to be giving him a push. Is it another Dublin show in a couple of months with a bigger test? Do we kind of get him lined up maybe for a featherweight tournament, like similar enough that I was suggesting with Carl Moore maybe next year? You know, you get him a couple of fights to kind of work towards that level of opponent as well. I mean, he's in a good position right now. What would you like to see more so than anything else for him?
Yeah, like they trusted him to kind of headline a card in Dublin and build it around him and kind of build him up a bit now. So I'd hope to see him on the main portion of the card and be one of the main highlights of that Dublin card if he is on the card. I imagine he will be after not really having to do a whole lot last night. It's after knocking out your man. But I think a bit of a step up in competition and then maybe look towards a tournament, because obviously he started on the PFL side with them. So try and get a step up in competition and build towards a tournament, and not the European. We want to see him in that in the $1 million tournament next year. I think that'd be kind of the route I'd be looking at.
100%, I agree. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what are my thoughts? Definitely a step up in matchmaking for sure.
Big time.
Nathan looked phenomenal.
He looks unbelievable. Like, I think under the radar, his level of skill set, I mean, you know, it's moments like this that kind of put the reminder that how legit of a fighter that he is, because you go out and see him, like Andy, and I'm sure you'll agree as well, like we're talking about a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a guy who kind of came on the scene as a Jiu-Jitsu guy who's going out there and absolutely devastating guys on the feet now. And I don't think we've reached the ceiling for Nathan Kelly yet either in terms of skill set. And obviously these challenges and these experiences are going to help him kind of grow into the fighter that he will come in his prime as well. It's very, very exciting story that Nathan Kelly is bringing us on as well. On top of everything, a fantastic representative of Irish mixed martial arts overall. It's the full package here with Nathan Kelly, to be honest.
Couldn't agree more. And like again, similar to Clark, I thought he was levels above his opponent. No disrespect to Singh Raheel, but I thought it was relatively easy. I know people I think fighters especially don't like hearing saying it. It's easy sometimes.
There's nothing wrong with saying that, and he
he reversed it up. Obviously, he had a bit of success in the feet early. They caught him with a nice 2-3 off the bat. Singer Hill, that's his name, Singer Hill. Pressed him up against the cage. He reversed, and I think he landed one. It was like one knee to the body, and then immediately all he was focused on was the knee to the body. So he's looking down, and all it took was Nathan to just separate slightly and just absolutely devastate him with that elbow. So the way I see the likes of a Clark and a Kelly right now, and this isn't to compare Cage. Smashing the thing there. This isn't to compare Cage Warriors or Bellator, but what Cage Warriors gives us when we look at fighters is a gauge of where they're at in their career, where like you see that as kind of like a European level title. And I think that's the level that Clark and Kelly are at right now, where they're kind of like, if there was a European title, they should be fighting for something like that, and then kick on from there.
I will go even one further than that. If those lads are in Cage Warriors, I'd be looking at Nathan Kelly as being a featherweight champion, and I'd be looking at Kieran Clark as being a bantamweight champion, to be honest. Without doubt.
Yeah. So they need to, like, whether it's a tournament or a big fight, or I don't know, but it should be. It needs to be a standalone fight against someone we know, someone we can gauge where they're at with, and then they can push on from there, or lash them into a tournament. And that's where I think this has always been the case with Bellator, and is less so with PFL, but still a little bit, like, because I do think the PFL Europe tournaments are great for kind of getting a gauge. We need more of that for these European fighters, and look to push them on. So they need better opposition. They're savage. That's 10 wins in a row for Nathan Kelly. He's looking better and better each time he goes in there. And as you said, he has that off switch where he can just flatline lads now. And that's the jiu-jitsu guy going out there doing it. So very impressive.
100%. Keeping up with the trend, Caoilte, of maybe some of our Irish fighters that were fighting on the Bellator card taking on some higher level opposition. I think it's just kind of a story or an opinion that we can share with Nate Kelly as well, who went out there and took on Jordan Elliott and picked up a lovely armbar finish in the first round. Didn't really look in trouble throughout that fight at all. It was a really solid performance by Nathan Kelly, and I'm curious to think, do you have that same opinion that, maybe we should be looking to kind of get him? And even at amateur, I mean, wins and losses aren't really that really mean as much at amateur as well with Nathan Kelly. We're at a stage, it's good for him to get the experiences against these kind of guys, but what is he learning in cage development when he is not being pushed in these kind of one-sided fights, with all due respect to Jordan Elliott, of course?
The other side of it is, like, look, he's still very young, and like, similar, look, records-wise, it made sense on paper on a regional show. We'd be looking and think, yeah, that fight makes sense. And obviously, you see that's just how amateur goes. It's not always going to... you're not always going to see the matchmaking's not always going to be perfect, because sometimes you don't know with lads who are only after having a few fights. Some lads can develop very, very quickly, and some lads maybe doing pretty well, but maybe a little bit behind. It's hard to know. No issue with the matchmaking in that sense. I just think he's under a massive spotlight because of the opportunity he's getting. But he's taking it with both hands. In terms of step up, of course, it's kind of the natural progression of amateur where you're going to get step up every time. And I feel he'll get it. I think it's he's on a good path at the moment where it's decent development. You don't want to be, at the same time, yes, he's fighting on a big show, but you don't want to be just roll him in there to the absolute deep end with lads with an absurd amount of fights. I know he's got a lot of experience and everything, but it doesn't need to be rushed either. Leave these lads develop correctly. So if
100%. And that's why I asked you. There's no better man to kind of lay out, like a guy who you've had an extra focus on a lot of these guys at the amateur ranks as well. And I don't have any problem with the matchup, nor did I before it. But obviously the result is there, and we know it now. And it was a routine win for Nate Kelly, and we talked about the level of flyweights that we have in the country, and we spoke about it a lot on the last one. Haven't seen a lot of them on the show, and I guess that's what a lot of people will be saying, is that it's great to see Nate getting the opportunities, and absolutely he deserves those opportunities that he's manifested for himself. But there is other levels of talent there that could get that same opportunity as well. I guess that's the other end of the stick, isn't it?
Well, look, Nate's gone in there and he's put on 2 brilliant performances. Like he's looked flawless essentially in both his performances under the PFL / Bellator banners. Look, the reality is when you are given opportunities like that, you have more of a spotlight on you, and you're going to have more fighters thinking, well, hang on, why is he getting that and why am I not getting that? And of course, this is a sales play. This is a narrative play. This is, the kid who was in the press conference, etc. for the McGregor press conference.
If you don't mind me interrupting for 1 second, it's also something that PFL have been doing with other amateur stars as well. They've not just looked at somebody like Nate Kelly and said, "Oh, we're going to do this for this guy." They've done it with Baggio Ali Walsh. They've done it with a couple of other amateurs as well in the US. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're all good. And look, I think that, as we've said, Nathan he's gone in there and smoked his first 2 opponents. So he's clearly good enough to be going in there. Look, if we're being honest, and this is no disrespect to Jordan Elliott, I'd never heard of him before. And we have a podcast that focuses in on Irish MMA and looking at amateur MMA. And maybe that's on us, because I know he's fought in Clan Wars a couple of times, but there's loads of flyweights out there and there's loads of matchups that can be made. And it's not a case that, because like from the flyweights point of view, they're going to be thinking, I can go in and beat this lad. If you're Nate Kelly or his team, or if you're a PFL or Bellator, you're not just going to want to say, all right, let's go and get the hardest opponent here to give Nate the hardest opponent possible. That's just not reality. But you also need to, like, PFL and Bellator need to be careful because they have to appropriately develop Nate. And I think part of that is going in and having difficult matchups against decent level fighters. And that way you can grow and get better and be challenged and be pushed, so that you don't end up in a position where, you've been given easier matchups and then you go pro and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, this level of opposition is way different to what I was expecting. Like they have a duty of care there to Nate more than anything, to not just use him as a promotional tool to, win in emphatic fashion. And then all of a sudden, it kind of does him a disservice in the long run.
You're spot on. Like, it's like, what do we run through the amateur ranks, and why do we take amateur fights? Well, we do that because we have to develop ourselves as ourselves, talking about as if we're going to be doing it. What fighters will be looking to do is to develop themselves before that and get ready for the professional ranks, to make sure, obviously, you're going to have some holes in your game here and there, and even when you do get to the professional ranks, but, that adjustment, you want to give yourself every chance to be ready for that adjustment and what it brings you. And yeah, I think the importance of the amateur game is not relying so much on going on long win streaks. It's providing yourselves the right challenges at the right time and putting yourself in those difficult positions, because those difficult positions that you put yourself in are overall going to make you a better fighter. And, whilst we have this experience, and I think with Nate, we've had it now, so I'm very curious to see what the next one will be. Will we be getting a little bit more of a challenge for him? Or, from a marketing perspective as well, we have to look at it as that they probably they want to try and keep Nate winning, and that's understandable, to try and build his stardom. But at the same time, when it comes to the amateur ranks, I don't think wins and losses matter all that much, nor do I think if he went in and fought a little bit higher up opposition, and ended up, winning maybe not as cleanly, or maybe even, going to decision. I mean, that's all down to development, and we get to see more of him as well. So look at that, nothing wrong with what's been happening, really. I mean, but where
he also might go in and beat some of these lads.
Yeah, as well. We don't know. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that he wouldn't. It's like, we don't know what way it's going to go. I think it's interesting to see. I think it's kind of like, the similar scenario. Are we going to be faced with the same problem that we have been faced with Kieran Clark and with Nathan Kelly, with Nate Kelly as well, which is, he's never going to turn down a fight. He's never going to, it's not in his power. PFL will present Nate Kelly with a name and he's going to say yes, no matter who it is. I'd be very, very confident of that. Nor does he care probably what we think or what anybody else thinks as well about his rise up. But it's just the way I look at it from, building an amateur fighter. I think we've had the showcase fights now, and it's time to start upping the stakes here a little bit.
It's tough as well, because
that's fair to say, though, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's tough as well, because you're kind of we kind of have to we're discussing. You kind of have to discuss it, but it puts him, it puts that spotlight on him, and where the experience that he is getting, he's you're an amateur fighter. You're not going out and fighting in front of packed out arenas every day. So he's getting some great experience in that regard. So look, it's one of those things you have to discuss, but it's.
Yeah, and by no means I want to disparage what Nate Kelly has done or is doing right now. I think he's a great representative of...
Except for not walking out the L triangle.
Yeah,
come on.
You wouldn't let that slide. Right, we're going on. I do have to circle back around to Nathan Kelly again, who we forgot to mention is a free agent right now. So that opens up a couple of avenues for him. Andy, I know you were tweeting about it and he had mentioned it. I spoke with him. He had mentioned to me with the interview last week that it was the last fight on his deal. Mentioned that he's more than happy to re-sign with PFL. Also mentioned that UFC, maybe he has those aspirations, but not right now. But that doesn't mean, Andy, that the UFC can't come and knocking. He can't maybe turn his head a little bit. I mean, you produce, if you're Nathan Kelly, you produce a knockout and elbow finish like that. It gets people's heads turns if you're a free agent, doesn't it? It's a good position to be in.
It sure does. And when you're on a 10-fight winning streak and a highlight reel KO to sail off into free agency, you're in a great spot. Look, if nothing else, it gives him a lot of bargaining power when it comes to getting a new contract and a pay increase from PFL and Bellator. And I know I saw Nick Baldwin, I think it was, put out that video of him saying that he doesn't really see the UFC happening right now and that he's very happy here. He's obviously saying that at a PFL/Bellator event, so it's you probably can't really speak as freely, but I do believe him. Like he's kind of said quite strongly, it seems that his intentions are to stay there, but that doesn't mean if the UFC were to come calling, or the issue is if the UFC come calling, it's probably going to be, here, do you want to fight in Contender Series in August for 12-12 for your first number of fights in the UFC, and that's probably not going to be as appealing as the good relationship, the activity that he's had, because to be fair, where we've been critical of Bellator for other fighters, Nathan Kelly's been fighting quite regularly, and he's been fighting abroad, he's been fighting in Ireland, he's got an opportunity to main event a show, so I think he's got a good fit there. I think they believe in him. And yeah, pay the man.
Absolutely. Moving on from, speaking of the UFC, a good segue, lads. Caolan Loughran, Rhys McKee this weekend coming up. Big fights in the UFC. We'll talk to Caolan in a couple of minutes about his fight. But let's share our thoughts first, Caoilte, about the two lads' fights. Obviously, Caolan Loughran going in against Angel Pacheco, Rhys McKee against Chidian Chikwani in the welterweight division. Great to see the boys back in the octagon again. I'm really excited to see them both throw down. Two huge fights and two proving fights for both of these lads on Saturday night coming up now, and I'm buzzing for it. How are you feeling about it ahead of it, and how do you think the fights are going to go, or how do you foresee the fights going?
Yeah, I'm buzzing for it. It's great to see. It's great to see get the Irish lads. I usually see them and they might be on a European card somewhere, but seeing them being flown out to America and fighting some of these cards is brilliant. Caolan's fights, I think it's a lot better matched is probably a way of putting it, I guess, because obviously last time went against Lapalus, a veteran of the game, and very tough matchup and put on a very good performance. But I think this one is it's better for for when you're starting out in the UFC. I think it's a very, very winnable fight for him. I think he could actually cause this guy a lot of issues, and I do feel like Caolan could get the finish here. Rhys, very tough fight. I think it's a big moment, this one, for him in the UFC. He's after a few losses. He's after losses now since he's been in there, and last one probably doesn't help. But it is probably maybe a must-win fight, but definitely a winnable fight. I couldn't tell you how it goes, but I do feel like it's going to be very, very entertaining, given the clash of styles, the toughness of Rhys, the durability that he has against a lad who's such a good striker. I can't say his second name.
In Chikwani, and I'm not great with names now, but I've nailed that one. The longer I keep saying that name,
the smile is serious.
You were straight out the gate there with that one. Yeah, don't worry, lads, I got this one.
Yeah. The more I say it, the more chance I have of fucking it up, Andy. But I am sure your excitement is the same as both Caoilte and I's as well. I think, with Caolan, it's a good winnable fight for him, and I think it's a winnable fight for Rhys as well. A good stylistic match for him, and I'm very excited to see, and it's great that the two boys are heading over there and fighting on the same card as well.
Yeah, look, I can't wait to see them back in there. It's brilliant to have Irish in the UFC, and the two lads obviously unsuccessful in Paris, but I'm quite confident going into this one now. If we're talking specifically about Rhys here, look, he just, I think Rhys, sometimes he starts slow, and I think that's where he really needs to start, right out the gate with a strong start here, because although Njokuani is on a 3-fight losing streak, he's a finisher. Like, he's dangerous. He's finished Marc-Andre Barriault, who was on a 2-fight win streak at the time, finished Dusko Todorovic. He's got a lot of finishes on his record, and I think that the UFC kind of put Rhys. I think that they know Rhys always delivers, whether he wins or loses. Rhys is always in a banger, and it's always a fun fight. And I think that, but they've probably looked at these two lads and thought someone's going to get finished in this fight. The longer the fight goes, I see Rhys growing into it, but I think he has the beating of Njokuani. I just think that he needs to start strong, and we need to see the best Rhys McKee out there. But look, if I was to hang my hat, I think that we will see Rhys finally get that long-awaited win in the UFC, and look, he deserves it. I really do think he deserves it, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back in there. Daddy McKee. The reinvigorated, re-energized Daddy McKee heading in here into Atlantic City.
Love it. Yeah, obviously we'll take a closer look at both of those fights after they happen, obviously on the next episode. But let's head on over. Let's talk to Caolan Loughran and hear his thoughts and about his preparation and everything like that ahead of this fight with Angel Pacheco on Saturday night. We welcome back the Don to the Auld Triangle, just days away from his second UFC fight in UFC Atlantic City against Angel Pacheco. Caolan, thanks for coming back on. We're a couple of days away now. You must be excited. You must be looking forward to getting back in there. How was the camp? You had a big trip to the States. Yeah, we're back in the UK for a spell of time. It seemed like the camp was a rather long one this time around. How was it overall for you, and what was the experience like getting over to the States and everything like that as well, to do some training with Henry Cejudo and all the boys over there?
Unbelievable. I do camps, but like, see, being on a loss, I couldn't, like, I've been in training flat out since probably the 3rd week of September, to be honest. I went into Christmas in the best shape of my life, so I've been training a long time for this one, but I do obviously up it for camp, more discipline outside of the gym for camp. But I would add like what I would call a pre-camp, really, from New Year's Eve. Really, I went straight to the first week of January. I went straight on a one-way flight to Fight Ready in Scottsdale, Arizona, and had 3.5 weeks there of like getting into it, dialed in. But then it really picked up when I came back from to Liverpool like 9.5 weeks ago. That's like ideal. That's like different level training though for them 9.5 weeks than the rest. But no, I was saying a few interviews going over training with Fight Ready and the lads in America was just unbelievable. Just a really, really, really good experience. A really good life. Grateful for the get off of. I took a week off for Christmas with my friends and family and was fit to board a one-way flight to the west coast of America to go train with a mouthful of UFC fighters. The lads in Fight Ready Cejudo put me up in a house for a month in a place called Paradise Valley. I mean, training was free. They give me 1-to-1s every day. They gave me so much time. They really, really bought into me, which I didn't expect at all. I thought they would just be good sparring rounds, but they wouldn't like. They would have more time for their own fighters. It was unbelievable how much coaching I actually got. So no, it was a really, really, really good experience. Obviously, the last fight went how it went. So not that you would ask questions of yourself, but being on a mat every single day with like 7 or 8 UFC bantamweights, I got to probably in your own head like solidify that you are who you think you are, and took a lot of confidence from it that way, and just a deadly experience, lad. But I was just really happy to come back to Liverpool. I was saying to my coach Colin when I first got back here, something about Liverpool when I get here, it's like I just flick a switch. It's like it's just associated with like hard training, and I've been here since I was an amateur. So I just when I'm here, I'm on it. You know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. I know when I'm training. I know where I'm going for my recovery. I know where I'm going for massages, sauna, where I'm doing everything. Do you know what I mean? I just over here, I'm just dialed in. So no, it's been a great camp, lad. I love training hard, and I've put in everything I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I've said it time and time again, is I really enjoy, and it's something I'm going to enjoy about your next fight as well, because you're a guy who was undefeated, and a guy who went in there has picked up his first professional loss. Now, in certain circumstances, losses can come in different ways. It could be a knockout, it could be a submission loss. You went in against a really high-level opponent, got some fantastic experience, obviously disappointing to get that loss. And it was something I was going to ask you about, maybe the trip to the States or in the camp in general. It's like normally, we will see new and improved, you want to go in and make changes. But what was your kind of thought process and mentality after that loss? Because, we talked about it before, Caolan. You're, in my opinion, about 30 seconds away from winning that fight. You know what I mean? So did you get super hard on yourself, or did you kind of look at more so the positives? And I'm assuming, just picking up what you said about that move over to the States to train with Cejudo and the rest of the crew over there, that was to kind of maybe silence the little doubts that you might have had in your mind, maybe that you can compete at the highest level.
Well, I know I can compete at the highest level. That's fact. I mean, I know that for a fact. I know how good I am. I know at top 15 level in the UFC is not a problem to me. I know that if I'm on. But it's a crazy game. It's a fucking... The game happened, essentially. What this sport happened. What every fucking sport happens, you don't... Like, I came out against Luke Shanks and they said to me being undefeated. I was like, I'm not fucking undefeated. Lost now. I'm sure I'll lose in the gym every day. I'm not going to retire undefeated. Look at the guys look up to, like, fucking El Diamante, Dustin Poirier, off a 2-fight skid, comes back out. Things just happen in fights. Fighting's a fucking crazy sport. And that's it. Like, Laplace is good. On 3 days' notice, hard fight for anybody. Again, I know that. Hard fight for anybody on 3 days' notice. It was... It is what it is, lad. It's the game. I was hard on myself. I still am hard on myself. I was posted. I'm 0-1 bum, ready to hit Atlantic City.
We had that as a note actually for questions. You brought that up today, and that's. I mean, look at you're put yourself out there ahead of that first fight. You caused a lot of fuss over in French MMA. You got a good reaction from the crowd, and look at the way I look at it is whether it's a good reaction, whether it's a bad reaction. A reaction is a reaction, and you created a lot of hype around that fight. But what's the mentality coming into this one? Is it that that humbleness of being a 0-1 bum, as you say in your social media posts?
We don't let a hard time humble you, lads. The game's meant to test you. Don't let a hard time humble you. No, it's part of the sport. I don't believe, like, I intend to test myself against the very best on planet Earth, and if I go on a fucking 12 fight here, Marab is probably, in my opinion, the best bantamweight in the world. He went the last Atlantic City show, he went 0-2 in the UFC, and that put him as a 7-4 pro. Now he's on a fucking 12 fight skid, or 12 fight win streak, obviously. If that happens to me, I'm going up to 45. I'm going to test myself as much as I can. That's why I'm in this game. So I was hard on myself, but I'm also a realist. Well, actually, I'm not a realist, but I know the sport. It's part of the game, lad. It's an absolute bastard. I'm kind of caught in the middle of understanding this is the game. Like, with a game, we literally have one champion here, Leon. He literally lost his debut. He won 2 fights, and then he fucking drew Kamaru Usman and just lost again and went 2-2. So I know that's a sport, but then you can't slip into a losing mentality, lad. I've been in it every morning, waking up wired to go training. Do you know what I mean? Because knowing that that's the situation that I'm in. I'm a winner. I've been a winner since I was a fucking 11-year-old lad on a Gaelic football pitch. Defeat just doesn't sit well with me. But that's the game, lads.
Are you sick of talking about the loss, Caolan? It's 6 months now. Like, is it kind of like, Jesus, I just want this. I just want to get in the cage and get this over and done with and put it behind me.
Yeah, met a boy from Derry there in the sauna in Liverpool in fucking Derry, and he goes to me, you do fighting? You see my ears? I goes, aye. He goes, where do you fight? I goes, the UFC. He goes, oh, how long have you been there? I goes, I had 1 fight. And he goes, how'd you get on? I goes, I lost. And then in my head, the whole energy just changes. I'm like, fucker thinks I'm shit. I don't like being on a loss, lad. I don't like the term loser, but it's the game. It's happened. What can I do? I can't control that. I probably had 1,000 people on social media or in person over Christmas and meeting tell me they thought I won the fight, but I don't. I'm not salty. I don't hold it. If you think Laplas won, I understand completely. But I'm fighting.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not a loser.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I'm fighting next Saturday, and I expect to win this one. You know what I mean? Get this thing going.
Well, let's talk about seeing as you brought it up. Look, Pacheco came in there for contender the contender series fight in his last fight against Silva. When you were looking at that fight, obviously up a weight and featherweight, of course, he's moving down to fight you. What did you think of that performance in there?
Heart, grit. His ear was hanging off. So if that doesn't tell you, and he kept coming, if that doesn't tell you what's coming, I don't think anything else will. You know, he's a tough kid. He's the man stamped to me in my dreams. Fuck him. He has to get it. Simple as that. I've been respectful of him. I've said that I read his heart. Well, actually, I'll contradict myself. I read his heart when it was a boxing fight in one of his losses. He's one other loss, and the kid started wrestling him, wearing on him, and he started to accept the takedowns. There's two types of toughness. You can be tough in when someone's throwing hands with you, or you can be tough when you get a guy like Morale just wearing on you, and you start to accept them, feel a wee bit sorry for yourself. And to be honest, I've seen that in his other loss. It's the fucking UFC. He's going to be all right, but I think there's levels to this game. I think he was a bit disrespectful talking my skill set in one's interviews, but I earned my place here. I run through Cage Wars without losing a round, and then I jumped in. I would have fought the kid Gamora. I don't think he was a hard fight. I thought he was a bit of the Ian Garry, Paddy Pimlet matchmaking. If I'm being honest, I was getting a push from the UFC, getting him. Took a fight against Laplas on 3 days' notice. Came up short. I think it's levels to this game, and I'm going to show where I'm at. To say I went out to America, trained with some big names. I've been putting myself through it. I've been working on stuff that I took from a guy of Laplas' experience and style, and I'm ready to go, ready to compete, ready to be under the bright lights. 7 months out of the cage, a long time, long fucking time. Long time walking around, not on a win. So, no, I'm ready to go, lad. He kind of fights the same way. He's tough, he's gritty, he rips the body, come up top, but fuck him.
You said that he was saying some stuff about you. I actually didn't see anything. What was he saying about you?
Just saying, one of his interviews he asked about how he's going to win. Fuck him, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You're used to that now at this stage, really, aren't you, as well, anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably something that, again, couldn't the last one. I go through Cage Wars and all these people talk shit to me, and I had this like chip on my shoulder, and then it all was going good and it was all starting to feel. I had no one talking. I got all praise, even back home in Northern Ireland, company, all praise, all good going into the fight, and then it's almost I'm walking out that I'm like, I was fucking yawning before I was the cage back. Like I knew it was about to happen coming out. I knew what the powers we were about to do. I knew it was about to go nuts. I was fucking yawning. I was like, this was just like a foregone conclusion in my head. It wasn't even like I had a fight. It was like, this is my coming out party. It's just a matter of being there. So the doubt and the people in my DMs for the last 7, even this week, you know what I mean? It's can be good for a fighter sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like ahead of that last fight, it was on something I was meaning to ask you in the past as well, and maybe we did speak about it, but you know, you'll feed off energy as a fighter, you know, whether it's good energy, whether it's bad energy, and there was a lot of bad energy in the air ahead of that Lapalus fight with, you know, the comments about French MMA, flipping the bird to the crowd and all that, and look, that's creating good scene, it's creating good energy, and you were feeding off it and you were enjoying it. What's the energy going to be like this week for fight week?
This is going to be mental. That I've never in my life, well, I actually don't know. I get like a link of tickets before they come out, you know, and like for 5 years, I've had Irish people from Tyrone people on the East Coast messaging, when are you getting over here? When are you getting over here, lad? From New York, Philly. That was coming from the West Coast stuff. So from what I'm seeing, It's the most people I've brought to a fight by literally about 3. I talk 80 people in the room, but there's hundreds of people coming here, like GA teams coming. So maybe he is from that region. Maybe it'll be different, but that's all fugazi. That's like an external. It's me and him in there again. Like that's all. I'm going back to the last one, lad. Even when I've been drilling the Dorse choke in the gym every day, I can, like right now, I can put myself there. I can put myself in that whole environment. It's unbelievable. It's fucking experience. You just can't buy it. And I can put myself in UFC auto. I can see Bruce Buffer. I can see it off. I've done that now. Fuck it. It's gonna be like. I just know the mentality I need to be good in that fight. I've only the last like 2 weeks have clicked on me in sparring. So I went through a rough out period sparring there, but the last 2 weeks it's kind of clicked on me. I know the mentality I need to go through. I've seen it all. But I think the energy's going to be different, but I don't care. I don't give a fuck. They cheer me or boo me. Obviously, people who are coming, I'm like, it's unbelievably grateful for like people flying halfway across the world, people from the East Coast coming. Like that's so. I mean, so like I can't even put it. I mean, so much of me, but I have a job on, lads. I'm going to fight the Angel Pacheco, and I can do it. Fucking in the UFC octagon, or we can do it outside when no one's watching. I'm coming to beat them. You know what I mean?
I think the fact that you've been in there before and experienced the bright lights, the crowd going against you as well, that you get a little bit of an advantage knowing what to expect, because a lot of people come into their debut can go quite fast. We've heard stories about it before from fighters, but now that you know what to anticipate, and how the build up and everything, do you think you have an advantage there compared to him?
Every guy's different. Like you know what I mean? Like McGregor came out against Brimage flowing. Israel Adesanya just owned it from the bell. Like everyone's different. Some guys just have it. Some guys don't. It can't hurt. It can't hurt that I've had the last 7 months. As I said, I've been throwing 1-2 in the pads. Clearly seeing the UFC arena around me. Like I swear I've done this every day. It's a great training tool. It's a great training tool. It's like it's one thing about the gym, it's another thing about the fight. And I've had that and I've been on my head every day. So it can't hurt to have that experience. Of course, the whole novelty of it, I do not care about like cameras and media and likes, and I don't care about that. I'm here for competition, to win an MMA fight, to look good winning an MMA fight. So it can't hurt, lad, obviously. But maybe he's born for the bright lights too. Who knows?
Caolan, I'm very curious to know what a lad from Tyrone looks like heading over to Scottsdale, Arizona. When you went over there, what was it like as a place, I guess, and the lads that you were training against? Obviously, you're outspoken. Like, did they know who you were when you arrived over? And had you talked any smack about any of them? Was there any interesting interactions?
Funny, actually, the Bashrat after he fought Lapis, the two of them landed. So that really wound me up that he had the win over. He literally just beat fucking Lapis, and that really annoyed me. But no, it was the first day the Thai coach land goes, "You're the boy that done this out in Paris," and he goes, "You were robbed." But I was like, don't know that lad. So Hudo didn't know me, but I was winding him up every day. Well, not most days that he came in, I was winding him up because Henry Hudo, I never said this in the build-up whenever I was because I didn't want, before his fight came out, like, but he was injured for like the 2.5 weeks. The last 2.5 weeks I was there. His groin was torn. I knew the Morale fight was a big ask for him. He didn't spar or wrestle or anything. He just like basically fucking walked and drilled. But it just so happened that I was there the same day that he had got this injury, and I said, when we sparring, lad? He's like, "Oh, I'm injured." Like I said, "I shit." But I kept winding him up that he wouldn't spar me. But no, it was good crack, lad. Good experience. Good life. I'm gonna go back to them. I was texting Santino there the other day. They were impressed with me, like, put it that way. But no, I got some really high level training, and they knew me, like, of course.
Who would have been would you have been hands-on working with Cejudo? Because like a lot of people talk about him now. Obviously, he's an active fighter and former champion. But a lot of people, you see John Jones going out there for his coaching capabilities. Like, did you get to work with him in that capacity at all? And is he as good as his MMA mind as good as people say it is?
His MMA is not as good as he thinks it is. I'll say that first and foremost. He's very, but no, he's. I didn't say he was injured the whole time, Cejudo, but they're really, 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 really good to me. The way he was like, I've seen like 4 or 5 days before he did get injured, like how specifically he was preparing for Marab. The money that he put in to bringing in like Mexican Olympic wrestlers that I lived with, his boxers, he sourced these guys. Like that's like from around the world, like to emulate Marab. That's deadly. I do that myself, but obviously I couldn't afford to do it to the level of which he does. Paying him good dough. So I'd say I took that from him. Even just conversing with a guy like Henry, like that's a guy he's forgot more about the sport than I. Talk about experience. He forgot more than I fucking learned about the sport. He's a winner, an absolute winner. But no, it wouldn't be much hands on him because say he was injured. It was a lot of the guys he brought in. I was with a lot, to be honest. And then I say I was in sparring with the Bashots, then a Ring Liang, a Reach Liang, we Bruno Silva at flyweight. Look, there was just a host of UFC guys. That it was great, but the 9.5 weeks here at Caolan really, that was more a good life, and it did take a lot from the coaches. But when you start to get down to the nitty gritties and like preparing specifically, where it's more about myself, and fighters have to be selfish. Like I was out there, like I'm not their fighter. Like when I'm in the Caolan, it's a lot of like extra stuff for me. It's a lot of drilling for me, and I think that's at this level, that's like paramount. You have to be selfish. You have to put that, like you have to have guys around you helping you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with Henry, I think, a lot of the cringiness and stuff that he does, yeah. I think a lot of people get blinded to the fact that the type of athlete he is, like obviously Olympic level wrestler and a 2-time UFC champion as well. Was there a particular conversation or a time that you spent with him where he may have shared a piece of useful information to you, Caolan, and coming up in and trying to get to those levels that he got to in his time as a fighter?
Yeah, he watched me spar one time as he was drilling, and I had a kid flattened out on the back, and the Cejudo starts saying, finish him. Like I'm against the mat, and he's just fucking drilling this cub's head through the floor. But he's watching me spar with him, and then after we've sparred, he sat down with me, and we're talking about my fight, and he was just about it's not stuff that like the band around don't really know, but just when you hear like from a guy like that, he's like, but using your head more in the fight and not fighting with your heart, and how the smart fighter prevails. Had this conversation. It was just really, really, really good. Actually, in his vlog one day, it's like a clip of me and him talking about Jones and Osman. But the way we talked that day for about an hour. Like it was deadly. It's invaluable. Surround yourself with like guys with that type of mentality, that type of success. It's a really, really good experience, lad. I am happy enough.
Yeah, nice one. Look, we have to ask, are you going to be coming out to the brand new Caolan Loughran song on Saturday night?
What? That was good, no?
That's brilliant.
You made it when you have a song about you.
This is what I said, lads. This is what I said. That was deadly. It's now banned and thrown. They actually made that a long time ago, like a couple of months ago when we released it. I suppose now, because there's part of it where it says going to the USA, they're waiting for that. No, just banned and thrown, lad. There's a lot of support now when I'm home, like, so that was deadly. It was funny more than anything. It was actually half cringing sharing it as like fucking, I don't know about that, but that was good.
You're going to get one of those songs now as well.
What's right?
You're going to get one of those songs now as well when he starts getting a few wins.
He's a bit to go, yes.
Caolan, I'm curious. Obviously, you have massive support from Tyrone. We saw a big fight night in Belfast last night, and a lot of the focus oftentimes is on Dublin when it comes to Irish MMA. A lot of the events, especially the big shows, they'll always come to Dublin. But right now, we've got yourself, obviously Rhys competing on the same card in the UFC, Paul Hughes doing great things, and FAI boom, and to have fight nights in Belfast, yourselves on the worldwide platform, is it like, how do you feel about it all? Like, is it kind of about time? Do you feel like the north of Ireland is sometimes overlooked when it comes to MMA and the spotlight that comes with MMA in Ireland?
Fuck, I don't know. It shouldn't be. Even like if I go around West Belfast now, like everyone, like anywhere in Northern Ireland now, like I'm trying to fucking dickhead, but like the UFC is huge, but I go anywhere in Northern Ireland now, people come up to me like it's deadly, it's humbling. participation levels in certainly rural the ends of Northern Ireland probably aren't as high as you would get in nice Dublin, but the fandom fucking through the roof. And I always heard Pete Caolan saying Ireland's not as big MMA is not as big in Ireland as it used to be. Like I can't speak for Dublin, but like the north of Ireland, absolutely, definitely, it's huge now. It's definitely bigger than it ever was 10 years ago when I got there. Like even like Cejudo, like 10 years ago, I couldn't think people in Northern Ireland would even know who he is. Like people talking to me about him. So now it's class. Essentially the Northern Ireland kept the scene going for a long time. There was obviously Dorn and Daki were going in the south. I think it was quite costly for them, but like I was fighting 3-4 times a year as an amateur, all in the north of Ireland, be it that whatever show that was in. And I think you're probably starting to see the fruits of that now. Obviously Paul should be in the UFC soon. Me and Rhys fight next weekend. Nearly cured one. Well, they had fighting for a title last year. So no, it's deadly. The sport is absolutely booming. With the exception of Ian, really, most of the top fighters are in the north. So there's a lot of high-level boxers around where I'm from, and in West Belfast as well. And it has been for a long time. But the MMA is getting big, and I say everywhere we go now in Northern Ireland, people are on me and on the UFC. So no, hopefully it continues to grow, lad. And if we get a UFC Dublin, would probably be more likely now. But maybe down the line we could do Belfast. It would be huge for the city to get the UFC. Because if I'm being honest, Bellator's there last night. There was not much talk about that, if I'm being real. But from what I was seeing anyway, it's the fandom is with young lads is the UFC really. Like, so that would be lethal down the line, you know.
The first actual UFC that ever took place in Ireland place in Belfast, 72. I was up there myself as a fan.
Oh, yeah.
Long time ago that was now. But like it's always just like, and we had cage contender events. We obviously had clan wars. Like it always seemed to exist. Maybe just to complement Andy's question as well. Like it was there, and to complement what you were saying, it was there. But we have had this explosion over the last number of years. Obviously with your success and Paul's success, with Rhys and with Joe McColgan picking up the Cage Warriors world titles as well. Do you think it might be almost better for the UFC to come back to Belfast maybe than to come back to Dublin right now with the current state of mixed martial arts up there?
I mean, like I'm realistic. I'm 0-1 the UFC. They're not coming back for me. Like, let's be real. It's going to have to be Ian. They'd like to have an Irish guy in the main event, I would imagine. He's got his I Quit match with Colby coming up, so we'll see how he gets on with that one.
How do you think that fight goes down, if it does go on?
I think I don't think Colby's Colby, really, if I'm being honest. I think he's a pure kickboxer now. He doesn't really wrestle, so I think Ian would have a handy enough fight with him, if I'm being honest. Doesn't really have any knockout power, no real submission threat. I don't think he's just not the guy he was, to be honest with you. So I think he probably would win. I don't think that's the fight to make, but if it happens, it's probably business-wise, he probably is. I do think he'd win, and Colby's a big name. But
do you think Ian will get the fight? Like, what do you think of Ian's, I guess, approach to angling for that fight right now? And look, he obviously he draws a lot of interest, whether positive or negative, in the UFC.
Some weird stuff goes on social media, lad. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that. Like, weird stuff goes on social media, but fair play to him, lad. He's winning where it matters in the UFC, 6-0. So like, that's what matters. Do you think will that fight happen? Yeah, I don't think it'll happen in Dublin. If people keep asking me this, like, I think that's like a main card pay-per-view fight, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think they could make that next. I'd like to see him against like Jack Dalla or Sean Brady. I think they're fucking lethal fights against like two hungry guys on the come up. But I say Colby's probably bigger numbers and probably an easier fight, so it'll probably make sense to give him that one, you know.
If the Colby fight is more of a pay-per-view looking type of fight, do you think that makes it more difficult for the UFC to plan an event to come back to Ireland if they can't figure out a way to get Ian in the main event if he's on the brink of title fights nearly?
Too big for Ireland, as I say. I don't know. I don't know any about. They're meant to do Till and Whittaker's meant to be in Dublin a few years ago. Like that was a big fight at that time. Until I was trim. Till then, like Whittaker had just lost the belt or something. So there's no reason why not. Like they're talking about a big just had a pay-per-view in London between Leon and Usman. So no, I think a number one contender. Well, again, Till the game whenever he fought Wonderboy, that was a number one contender fight in his hometown. So he could have if he beats Kobe or someone like that in summer, you could have an end of year show when he's number one contender fight against a big name and a really meaningful fight in Dublin. That would be lethal, wouldn't it? Love to be on the card. So see how he gets on. Again, Kobe's not what it used to be, but like he's still fucking. When you're fighting in the top 5, top 10 in the UFC, it's nothing's a given, like, you know.
I'll put you on the spot, Caolan. What needs to happen to get the UFC back to Ireland? Because obviously, it looked like it was happening, and then there was water poured on it, and now we don't really know. So, what do you think needs to happen to get the UFC back to Ireland?
You start winning. Fucking group of losers first and foremost. I get a win here next week. Rhys gets a win. Shauna and Kiefer Crosby all get matched. Hopefully, get there. Get a fight sorted. Obviously, St. Paul Hughes, and then Ian gets a big win. It's a fickle game, this sport. Like I told about my last one. It was all positive, all good. Everyone fucking around you, bigging you up, and then just boom, it changes. A win again, it changes everything again. So if everyone got a win, it changes. But I'm just focusing on myself, lad. I won 3 fights this year, and I won 3 wins. Starts next Saturday night against Egypt Chaco. If one of them was in Dublin, that's a bonus. But that's out of my control. I was thinking of 3 wins, you know what I mean? But if we all win, of course, it's a lot more likely, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is. Talking about Rhys's fight, Caolan, how do you see that one going down with Chidi and Jukwani?
I didn't really know that guy, and then I went and looked him up. He's obviously, was he 3 fights skin now, the boy?
Yeah.
But again, this is the UFC. The people see that and they go, you should win this. I've seen one of his fights. The first fight I went and looked at, he got a 7-second knockout or something, didn't he? It's fucking.
Yeah, and he's moving down in weight for this one as well, of course, you know.
And going by everyone's talk is that he fatigues. Well, that's not good against Rhys McKee because he'll be there. He will be in your face, and no matter what you hit him with, he's going to be there. So I just talking to Tierney, he's sparring Niall McGreevy, and the kid's a Thai style, and that's a really good spar, Niall McGreevy. People in Belfast be very familiar with him. And Tierney is looking really, really good. So please God he gets the win. I'm backing him to get the win, especially with saying this kid gets tired. Rhys's pressure is fucking outrageous. So please God he gets the win. But it's the UFC, lads. It's hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. One last question, and then 2 last questions, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Michele Martignoni mentioned you after a win last week. I found it peculiar. It's obviously you're still sitting in his thought process after, a little bit of over and back in Cage Warriors. He says he wants to win the title and he wants to come and fight you in the UFC. What did you make of that?
All the best, big lad. Hope it happens, Ray.
100% enough said. Last but not least, March 30th, you're going to be going out there for your second UFC fight. You're looking for your first UFC win. Tell us exactly how the fight goes and what your prediction is.
Fighting nuts, lads. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm coming at him with I've never been better at fighting. I'm in a really, 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 really good place mentally. And I think skill set should prevail. I think I should completely destroy him, if I'm being honest. But tough kid, maybe stays in there, but I don't expect to completely annihilate him every single second of every single minute. That's what I'm banking on now.
First round, second round, third round?
I think I'm going to do him in the first round. That's maybe 100 honest. He's never been stopped, but he takes an awful lot of damage. He's not same as fucking this Giannis Gamori cunt. He's never competed a bantamweight in his life. This is his first fight ever a bantamweight. So hopefully here.
Are you worried that there might be a chance he might not make it again and you're stuck with another kind of awkward situation? You can't think like that.
That's the next turn. That's out of my control, lad. So if he comes up, he's been his main thing, I would say, is his durability. You've never done this weight cut in your life. Never once ever done this weight cut in your life. And you're going to come under my pressure. I'm not going back. I'm going to watch you. So surely his durability is affected. And never competing at a weight class in your life and then doing the weight cut first time in the UFC, that's absolute madness to me. Like, I think that's insane. So I think I'm going to go at him from the first bell. He keeps saying I'm going to get tired. I think that's just insane. He thinks, so I'm going to go at him first bell. If he can take the first round of shots and pressure, I'm 100% positive he's going to be fatigued by the second, you know.
100%.
Caolan, I've actually got one more. It's a non-MMA question here. I always do this. Is a running joke. I say we're done and I come in. Okay, well, one, you can plug that at the end if you're selling the jerseys, but you've got these backers on the East Coast of the US, right?
Yeah.
Surely some of them know where to find a decent pint of Guinness. What's the plan for after the fight?
They're the ones on the back. You know what? I'm trying to get out paydays. So I'm trying to message. I'm trying to message pubs a lot. They said, saying, I'm going to bring a couple of hundred people. Could I organize a fucking after party here and you pay me and I bring them? But no one's got back to me yet.
we can see us doing an open workout in the bar. Is it? Very slow.
Fuck's sake, no way. No, we'll get something sorted out. As there seems to be a good enough out nightlife, and I haven't been out night out since Christmas. Like, I'm not that I want to. I've been on it, but we'll get something sorted out. It'll be a good crack. And then me and my girlfriend's going to New York for a couple of days after. She's never been to America, so get the job done first, lad. But we'll find we'll find somewhere after, I'm sure.
First or second round finish. And then you're going to finish about 10 or 15 points after the fact. Then that'll be the ultimate. Like, I know Andy said last one, but I have one last one because when we were talking to I'll
get my payback later.
Andy will come back in after this, maybe. But when we were talking to Tiernan, he really shocked and surprised us by telling us he was on the way back from the gym and he was going to milk 70 cows.
Oh, aye.
Who's a better milker of a cow? Would it be yourself or would it be Tiernan? Do you have any hidden farm secrets that you're good at when you get down there? Yeah, who'd be a quicker man to draw a bit of silage or something like that?
Definitely Tiernan. I am useless around the farm. I'm a city boy now, lad. I live in Liverpool over here. I would be no use. No, my dad had a bottle injury in the farm over Christmas time, and Tiernan was having. When I was home there too, I had to help him. But it's a tougher game than the fighting as the foreman, lad. It's not for me, really. Maybe
is that how you become like the favourite child? Is the number of cows you milk, or?
Aye. Well, maybe here there's a big bit of land has to go somewhere. Maybe that's what Tiernan's thinking.
Smart thing. Good base for mixed martial arts, the farm life. But we'll wrap it up, Caolan. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Always a pleasure. We're really looking forward to seeing you in there again in the Octagon, March 30th. Everyone will be able to check it out on TNT Sports. If you're over in the States, you'll be on ESPN, obviously, as well. Angel Pacheco, Caolan Loughran in the bantamweight division, March 30th, UFC Atlantic City. Caolan looking for his first UFC win. Let's get it happening. Thanks so much for joining, and we wish you the best, Caolan. We'll talk to you after the fight.
Thank you very much.
Oh, t-shirt. Give it a shout out.
Fuck, guy. Maybe you can't see it. New team Loughran tops. Throne inspired. New badge, everyone. The Dawn.
Love it.
Stallion. It's actually us in the back, but Amber Burr Construction is sorted. So thanks to you, to them boys, and to all the sponsors. Let's go.
Where do they buy them?
DM Tiernan. I'm too busy this week for him.
Love it. Best t-shirts in the game. Thanks, Caolan. All the best to you, my man.
Thank you very much.
All right, gents. Moving swiftly along here. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about Cage Legacy towards the end of the podcast, because in reality, let's break the curtain. Let's break the fourth wall here. It hasn't happened yet. We're recording this a little bit early, so we're going to come back on. Andy is going to be over there to speak about that. But what we can speak about, we talked about it with Caolan Loughran. A little bit of over and back this week, Andy, between Chaos, Colby Covington and Ian Garry. Someone has spread a little bit of gas on that fire and that matchup. And if we were unsure if it was going to happen, all of this chit chat is bringing us steps and steps closer to it happening. What did you make of, number one, the call out from Colby, the response from Ian, and I guess another response from Colby again after that? Things are getting spicy.
The high school bully.
Even Layla was coming in and sharing her thoughts as well. So I mean, yeah,
the high school bully's back with his high school level of trash talk. A lot of people seem to like that Conor McGregor line. Make that of what you will. I think it's positive. I think that the videos probably on both sides are a little bit bizarre. But I think that the main thing is you have Colby Covington engaging with you. This whole the I quit stuff. I think it was a good clap back for me. And I don't think. Look, being honest, I think it'd probably be best if Layla just didn't make the videos, because I think it just. I don't know. Look, she's entitled to. I'm not in her shoes. I don't know. If they're trying to kind of keep her out of the firing line, I don't think stepping into the fire really helps with that. Sure. But I do think it's all. I think it's the fact that they're engaging with each other. I think that Colby's entertaining it at all is great, because I didn't expect him to. I thought he would just completely ignore this and not go into it. But he clearly knows that Ian's an interesting fight. It'll draw a lot of eyes, I think, and it's a polarizing one. So the videos themselves didn't think a whole lot of any of them really. But I do think it's good that they're going back and forth.
Well, kind of, I think, the topic of the conversation that we're having is just that, it seems that we're making those steps Caoilte towards that fight. And, when you're getting yourself involved with Colby Covington, you're going to be expecting the level of trash talk and disparity that he is going to bring. And we've seen in the past, he does not have any boundaries. He's a bit of a scumbag when it comes to trash talk, let's be real. And, sometimes if you sign up, you've got to soldier on. So it seems that Ian has signed up here and soldier on, but there could be a little bit of a mental battle before any physical battle happens, really, with this one, Caoilte.
Yeah, there's two fights when you're coming up against Colby Covington. His lack of boundaries mean that it'll test your mental fortitude massively with how much he will say and how far he will go. So overcoming that is in it alone is very important, and it'll show the mental strength if one can get through it, because stuff like that, and when someone doesn't have boundaries, it can definitely affect someone leading up to a fight. Mental games are massive. Like, what's they say about fighting times? How much of it's mental at times about and keeping your head. So be a good test there. And then there's obviously that physical test in the cage as well, when you've got a battle outside in terms of the mental battle, and then you got the test of the high pressure wrestling and the high level of Colby Covington. Albeit it's a fight that I hope does happen, and one I do think Ian can win. And at the moment, the videos or whatever, it is what it is, but it's just adding to the storyline and a build up to a fight and making it more marketable if the fight does get made, and hopefully it does. But yeah,
Ian, I suppose like the video, like the videos, the content of the videos are kind of irrelevant almost. But like, do you think after seeing them, are we closer to an Ian Garry Colby Covington fight?
I think that we are, because I think you said the most important thing here is that, whatever you think of the responses, and I don't buy too much into the shit talk or the videos or anything like that. It's neither here nor there for me. The fact that Colby has responded, and, we are getting this over and back, and we are getting this interest. Well, that, Dana or Hunter or the UFC brass are watching in the background, and they can see these rumblings happening. So, I mean, the hurdles are coming down on that fight happening. It seems that Colby Covington wants it. It seems that Ian Garry wants it. It seems that the fans want it. And in all of those cases, those three aspects, if one fighter wants it, if the other fighter wants it, and if the fans want it, generally speaking, the UFC is going to put that on. One thing we would have to say is that it does kind of lessen the chances, I think, in an Ian Garry headline slot for a UFC Dublin show. It would be up to Colby whether he wants to come over there. My guess is that he won't. I would liken that fight probably to a co-main event on a pay-per-view. Maybe if the McGregor-Chandler fight is announced, I mean, worth mentioning, there's talks of that happening in the summer as well. Maybe you do McGregor-Chandler headline shot. Maybe you do your Ian Garry, Colby Covington as your co-main event slot. You get that Irish interest over there for both of those fights. then maybe you do a number one contendership fight with Ian, and it's crazy how it happens. But I think there's a damn good chance of this fight happening. To be honest, I think no matter what Colby says, or even the stipulations are fucking.
Well, Ian, you said there's three things that need to happen, but there's another three things that need to happen as well.
Yeah, it keeps on going here. It's like I think I think the likelihood of this happening is probably around a 7 or 8 out of 10 right now for me. But
that's I'll take that.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a fight that the UFC will want to put on. Looking a bit closer to home, Jack McGuire and Dee Begley, obviously, they went over to compete in Tenerife, fight 2-1. Mixed bag of results. Caoilte, obviously, Jack McGuire picking up a beautiful knockout, lovely one too. Dee Begley not so lucky in her fight with Lizzie Gervers. She lost the unanimous decision. Any quick thoughts on those two fights and how they played out, Caoilte?
Yeah, brilliant to see Jack back. Look, he's been out of the game for 3.5 years, and really good performance on his return. I think the first round he was a little. You could see that it was evident that for the first round he was kind of finding his feet again, and that feeling out process was there, and Mendoza was trying these heavy leg kicks, and yeah, it was a bit, and then he grew into the fight a lot more, and from round 2 onwards Jack really looked himself, and then the finish was just sublime, like the straight shots down the middle, dropping him, and then the follow-up, yeah, he really looked good in there, and it was a brilliant win for him. Then as for Dee, then like it was a tough fight. I think the main factor here was what's her name, Lizzie. Her judo was just so evident, and she's a very high level judoka as well. She's competed in judo internationally. She's national titles, the whole shebang, and you could tell because it was a big factor there in that fight with the takedowns, and it was an unfortunate one, but a lot of lessons to take from it, and on to the next one with for Dee. But yeah, mixed results.
It's a rough one, isn't it? She's kind of gone through a bit of a rough patch in her career at the moment. I think she's 1-4 in her last 5, so hopefully she can turn that around. Brilliant to see Jack McGuire back, like after, was it almost 3 years or something? It was like during. I was chatting to John Mitchell actually today, and I was like, when was the we were saying it was like the Manchester card during. I think he told me it was one of the trilogy. Remember they did the trilogy cards during lockdown?
Yes, they were.
That was and it was a brilliant fight against Kieran Mulholland. So there was a lot of momentum back.
Cork, wasn't it? Was that in the Cork?
No, he fought Manny. Was it Manny Akpan? I think he fought in Cork. Yeah. Was it? Hang on. Yes, he fought Manny Akpan in Cork, and then Kieran Mulholland. Then so he lost Manny Akpan, but then there was a good bit of momentum behind him, and. Yeah, it was mad, but what a win to come back with. Like the finish was so flush when you catch a lad kind of square on like that, and a real emphatic look to it. So brilliant to see Jack McGuire back. Yup, Cork.
Cage Legacy 21 is in the books, and we're here to talk about the action, the drama, and the Pillow Hotel. I think it was Cage Legacy versus the Wi-Fi was the fight of the night. And boys, we had a mixed bag of trying to watch the fights. It always was the same. It reminded me of watching one of those dodgy Russian streams that are perfect right until like the co-main event and the main event, and then it started getting a little bit dodgy. So look, we caught as much as the action as we would catch. On the night, Max Lally picking up a great win in the co-main event. Obviously, Richie Smullen picking up a win in the main event. Lads, you all share my frustrations. Look, let's make this about the fighters, but we have to talk about the stream. It was not good. It was not great, Andy.
This is like bedtime stories. We're all in our matching pajamas here. We already told everyone this. We're recording.
After breaking Fugazi now, you should be wearing the clothes that you were wearing the first time. Because now on the video,
we already told them. We already told them.
They all know.
I'm only joking. Yeah. We all look better in the hoodies anyway. So
I think people sometimes think that we like coming in and giving out, but we don't. We like coming in and talking about all the good things in Irish MMA, but we also have to be honest, and the reality is it's a bit frustrating when you pay for a stream and you don't get to watch the fights. So look, I was kind of expecting Max to go in there and get the job done quick. I was expecting Richie to go in there and get the job done. I saw the clips of the finishes.
Yeah, if we don't mind, let's work our way down through the card real quick then. We'll start off first fight with Richie Smullen versus Kirill Medvedovsky in the main event. Richie took out Kirill in less than a minute with some vicious ground and pound. Didn't see it on the screen. I had to go and check. Thankfully, Cage Legacy did have it up on their Instagram. So look at we could go back. We had a scheduled time here to talk about these fights, so apologies that we can't cover them, but it's out of our control. Cover them as well as we'd like to, I should say. So we didn't see anything only to finish in Richie's fight. It was some vicious ground and pound, and it was a result that was going to steamroll him into a couple of opportunities in the future as well. And Andy, I'll send you in just for your thoughts on that. I mean, you probably just seen as much as the two of us with the finish on Instagram as well. The stream was completely gone.
I don't know. I mean, it was what? I think it was 59 seconds or something. Yeah. So I don't know.
It fooled me because I was looking at Paul announcing it, and everybody had all their clothes on, and then it was like the t-shirts and everything were on, and next thing it cut to it and everyone was there, and I was like, lovely, we're back in time. And then I was watching it, like Olivia was up there with me, and she was like, the fight is over. And I was like, what? Couldn't be. And then Paul got back in again and announced it as well. So we didn't see the turn of events that got the fight to the map, but we did see the finish, and it was a vicious one, Andy.
Yeah, for some heavy ground and pound, and by the sounds of it, it was I could just about make out what was going on in the post-fight interview. It sounded like Richie was talking about maybe jumping on the Liverpool card and just staying active. So it seems like he, back when he left Bellator the first time, he was angling towards a UFC run when he was fighting over in Ukraine and stuff. And I think that's the plan here. He's after getting out of his contract in Bellator/PFL. Again, and that seems to be the plan here, to just fight actively, get as many finishes and wins as possible. So it'll be a busy year for him by the sounds of things.
Absolutely. Caoilte, what do you think could be the best road for Richie now? A couple of different options that he has. Obviously, he's been talking about going back to the UFC. We've got, if he was, like Andy said, and it's a smart move, maybe to get onto that Liverpool card with another win, another finish. We're coming into Dana White Contender Series kind of season pretty soon coming in. It'll kind of lead him right up into that, if that was the route he wanted to take. But you got your octagons, you got your PFLs, he's got plenty of options there.
No, I'd love to see him in the UFC again. I think, he's going to go down this route of keep active, maybe, and if he stays active and has fights booked, an opportunity for even a short notice fight might even come up if they're looking at him as it is. So keeping active is key. I think he looked good he looked vicious from what we did see with the fight, and I'd like to see him just keep the activity up, like he's mentioned, and see what happens from there. But it's very promising for him for the year ahead.
Indeed, it is. Another impressive performance, obviously, from Max Lally in the co-main event as well. He took on Nick. I was going to say, I'm going to be a prick, but I am going to be a prick. I was going to say he's going to take on Nikola Ivanovic, who was making his professional debut, and as the show right there. Yeah, but no, he short notice a change of opponent for Max, obviously, in this one, with Nikola Ivanovic coming in to take on Max for his second fight. Max won the fight via Darce choke, another fight that we only kind of saw frames of. I think kind of got a glimpse of the finish on the stream as well on Instagram. It was a lovely Darce choke. I know the fight played out a little bit on the feet before Max decided to take the fight down. And once he got the fight down, the writing was on the wall for Nicklaus. And from what you would have seen, Caoilte, I think another impressive performance from Max there. A fight on certainly on paper, we would have thinking that he would have been winning relatively easy, and that definitely was the case.
Yeah, and you look at the fight on paper and you think that, and it's a case of Nicola, credit where due, he comes in on short notice and he causes issues for lads as well. Like, it's not as if he's just there to roll over, and he's that awkward type of striker, and he'll cause issues, and it's a big risk going in against him if he does catch you, like he did. Like, he hurt Lee Hammond, didn't he, with
broke Lee Hammond's nose. Yeah,
exactly. Like, so he's still dangerous, and you looked lucky, that kind of awkward striking style to start with, from what I saw, and then Max kind of remained patient, picked his opportunity, took it to the ground. I think the last thing I kind of clearly saw was Max had him against the cage, got the trip, and then was on top, and then it kind of saw frames until the finish, and saw the finish on Instagram. It looked like a solid choke. And yeah, it's good for Max. It's good that he got the fight in his hometown. He's only, as they mentioned on the broadcast a few times, he's only a push bike away from the place. So he's so it's good that he got to have that experience as well, and the fight didn't completely fall out, and he was able to get an opportunity to compete and have all that time spent in Thailand and in camp pay off.
Indeed, a good win for Max, Andy, and a good moment, obviously, into the crowd, into all of his friends and family and the fans as well after the fight. Good experience for Max, but yeah, we'll be excited to see what the future holds for him as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you'd expect Max to go in and get the job done here against Ivanovic. Obviously, it was a late notice replacement that it should be noted there. But we all kind of know the level that Max is at and the potential that he has, and still early doors in his career. But you'd expect him to kind of win and handle lads with much better records than Ivanovic. And yeah, fair play to Ivanovic for getting in, but at the same time, you kind of, and again, this is just my opinion, you kind of hope that there's someone in the background looking after him, and not, maybe guiding him to more appropriate matchups, because he's just kind of been, it's Lee Hammer, that's 0-7 now, and look, he puts up a good fight, but he gets thrown to the wolves a lot against kind of hot prospects, so not ideal. But again, late notice replacement, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Max goes from here. Obviously, it's great to see him on the Irish scene early doors. I imagine very soon in his career he'll be snapped up by a promotion and he'll probably start fighting abroad. So it's great for him to have those moments in fighting in front of a hometown crowd. But yeah, you just kind of hope that it would be maybe a more appropriate opponent the next time.
Kind of feeds into the kind of trend of this podcast overall. We were talking about the Bellator Belfast card and wanting and hoping lads to get a little bit more of a push in the right direction. Now it's completely different when you're dealing with Bellator as a worldwide organization. You would have the level of expectations up a little bit higher. Obviously, Cage Legacy, more on the regional side of MMA things, and you always have a chance of fights falling out and stuff like that. I think with this fight, and for Max, it was more about getting Max inside the cage, getting him competing, so that it's better for him to go in and do what he did in the event rather than not fighting at all. I'm sure Max will tell you that the same as well, and I'm sure he would agree with getting that higher level competition. But that'll happen as his professional career moves on over the next couple of months and years, etc. Moving on down, guys, Alex Caoilte against Jed Paulo. Whew, my goodness, really, really solid win here for Alex Caoilte. This was the most exciting matchup for me on the card. I thought it was going to be a hell of a lot more even than what it was. Alex Caoilte went out there, locked in the Darce choke super quickly, gets Jed Paulo out of there, and takes up the super lightweight championship in the process. Caoilte, it was a really good win from Alex Caoilte.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around this lad, and he's living up to it. Even not exceeding that again. It's really impressive seeing how he's developing, and that's a massive feather in his cap, that win. Even and especially in the manner in which he won it. Like they mentioned on the broadcast that it could have been. I think Paul and Phil were saying that could have been potentially their fight of the night. I had similar kind of thoughts, like this could be an absolute banger, but Alex had no interest in that. Got it done as quick as he could, and in really impressive fashion. So. Yeah, very exciting future ahead of him, and a really good performance. Fair play to him.
I know you tweeted out after the fight, Andy. I retweeted it myself. There seems to be something special happening down there at SBG Nace, obviously, with Alex and with Conor McCarthy and a couple of others that are coming up along from SBG under Peter Queally and Sergey as well. And Alex is another one, 18 years of age, 3 amateur fights so far, 3 first round wins and 3 first round stoppages for the young man. So, I mean, you said it, he's one to watch, and I definitely agree. He's definitely one to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And like the level of young lads coming through these days is mad. Like you see these guys who are 17, 18 and they look so polished. Obviously he's still very early days. He only had his first full adult amateur fight there recently enough, but he scored that highlight reel KO and now he's got a quick sub to boot. So he looks well rounded. And yeah, want to keep an eye on the Irish amateur scene. He looks like he could be one to watch now for the next couple of years.
100%. Moving on, Matthew the Hound O'Rourke from Milo Martial Arts in Kilkenny gone Coyote O'Brien and got it done. First round TKO in the light heavyweight division. A good little striking exchange. Excuse me, as I almost choke. A good little striking exchange on the feet before Matthew decided to take the fight down, landing some big ground and pound there, Caoilte. And, Matthew is another guy who's been on a bit of a winning streak as well, and he looked really impressive in here against Kaya. And I think this win, sets up a 4-fight win streak. He's only lost to Conor McCarthy at welterweight also. That was at welterweight. This is at light heavyweight. So I think he'll be very happy with this, and it sets up quite a big fight maybe on that card in June, maybe on the 29th in Kilkenny. We might be able to set up a big one.
Brilliant if they could. It'd be a good ticket seller as well for them down there, and good to have someone in the likes of a title fight as well. It'd be brilliant. But he's some power in those hands. I must admit, he was relentless when it got to the mat and trying to throwing the shots on the mat. But he's on a good streak now, and he's flying it. Probably lining up some big fights ahead of him now. Be it at I imagine he's going to stay at light heavyweight. From the looks of things, he's been fighting that way for a while now. But who knows if he's fought in multiple weight classes? So there's plenty of options there for fights for him.
I was saying, Andy, on the group there when we were watching it, I'd like to see him maybe if he could get down to middleweight and take on Brian Manning. I'd love to see that fight. I think the two of them match up really well. It'd be something like you could set up a Premier, but a good win for Matthew. And it'd be exciting to see what he happens for him going forward.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I saw in his record his only loss is to Conor McCarthy. That was in at welterweight, so he's clearly been bounced around the weight class a little bit. But heavy hands. I thought he looked quite good here against Kaya. And impressive performance. Be interesting to see where he goes next.
Indeed, it will. Moving on, Ben Mann defeated Lennon Wilson via first round TKO. A lot of first round finishes here, guys. Quick night for a lot of these guys. This one, the way these both lads started, Caoilte, they started throwing heavy, and the writing was on the wall, as the lad says, for an early first round stoppage. The way these guys came out, it was a really good win from Ben in the end from SBG Charlestown, and impressive stuff.
Yeah, they came out of the bat. They went for it straight away. It was entertaining while it lasted, and this Ben Mann fella, he looks good. I think that was his first fight in the in the senior ranks, which you call them, or as in full amateur rules. So he looked really good. Looked sharp, striking was good, and another one to kind of keep an eye on. Cage Legacy are kind of picking up these early amateur prospects, and we're getting a good glimpse of them inside there now with some of the performances we're seeing.
Indeed, we are. Last but not least, Evan Horgan wins a decision on the main card over Darren O'Brien. And anything else on the card overall, Andy? Maybe I'll hand it over to you to kind of round us off for the card. A couple of prelim fights too, of course, but time is the essence.
Yeah, no, I think really this was a card where there's some prospect, or prospects is probably not the right word. There's lads to watch, coming up here. The likes of Alex Coe, the likes of Ben. I was actually very impressed with Ben Mann. I thought he was a clear level above his opponent, but at the same time, the skills that he was showing, his footwork and his boxing, stepping off and making a miss, and the hand speed, things like that. And he had a bit of the gift of the gab on the mic as well, so he looked like he could be a bit of a firecracker, calling out the flyweight, saying that he's the new king. And we love flyweights on this podcast, but it was one of those cards where you're looking out for lads who are up and coming. Again, a bit of. Not to go back to the broadcast, but this is constructive criticism. But I'd love to see. I thought it was great that they had a 3-man booth of Paul.
3-person booth. Sean was there. Come on now, Andy.
3-man/1 booth with Sean, Phil, and Paul. if the broadcast, if it's just the little things, and it was kind of the same last time. Like I enjoyed the Irish hip hop. I enjoyed the Irish hip hop this time. But in between rounds,
there's a couple of different songs as well, lads. All right, I think they mixed it up a little bit.
In fairness, it was good.
Yeah,
great
thanks for that, Dickie. Well, yeah, no, we don't want to be
commentary though in between rounds. Like when you have a 3-man booth, I'd like to hear that.
So obviously, the way it is, I'd say obviously the music in the arena, and it's understandable when fighters are coming out and stuff like that. You have to have it, but would it be a thing? And I know it kind of takes away from maybe the live experience of the show, but for the viewing experience, if you couldn't hear that background music, or if the DJ chose not to,
they're playing music.
Well, yeah. So if they want to put it up on YouTube, it'll be copyrighted. So that's why it does come in. But there's other ways around it. I'd love to hear the thoughts of the boot in between rounds as well, or maybe you can cut into the corners or something like that. But obviously, you're balancing between the people viewing at home and the people viewing live. So, I mean, yeah, that's something I'm sure that they'll work out. Overall, fair play to them for putting on another good show. It was frustrating watching the stream back. We have to say it. We have to say that, and hopefully things kind of will improve with that kind of side of things as well. I mean, they're making the effort. They're cutting to different camera angles, and you're getting the close-ups, and you got the three. You kind of got the preview from Paul and from.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and like they fixed it. To be fair, like because they were playing that. I think it was like a kind of pre-recorded, package ahead of the main card. But for whatever reason, the sound wasn't working. But then they fixed it, which is great. And I actually really enjoyed that.
And all of that is well and good too. Like, but at the end of the day, give me one camera angle with a stream that doesn't start and stop every 2 seconds, and I'd be a happy man. Anyway, but that's it. That's Cage Legacy 21, and we shall move on. Quick mention of Premier FC or Premier. Is it Premier MMA? I should say now. Excuse me. Yep. They are coming back with a show in Kilkenny, June 29th. One fight announced for that already. Team Milo's Paul Nolan versus Cian McCartan. It's going to be in Ballykeefe Amphitheatre, an outdoor arena. Very cool arena. I mean, look at. I think it has to be said. I mean, if they can pull this off, and if it is a success, it'll be a great success. But an outdoor venue in Ireland, there's always that chance of the weather hindering it. If it rains on that day, I don't know what will happen. I don't know what the plans are. But it's a big risk putting on an outdoor show at Caoilte in Ireland, isn't it? And but if he pulls it off, it'll be a great job for Niall and the team over there at Premier. But it's a cool venue, but very, very weather dependent here. What was the name of the
Child of Prague? You need the Child of Prague statue out for that.
There you go.
Statue down there for the weather.
Here,
sure, it never rains in Ireland. What are you talking about?
Both Ian and I are from the sunny southeast of Ireland, and it may be called the sunny southeast.
Sorry to hear.
But it may be called the sunny southeast, but it is definitely not very sunny, and it rains very, very often. So yeah, he's going to be holding out for a lot of hope with this one, and hoping and like that the rain holds out. But I don't know, big risk. I said to you guys when the announcement came out, very cool idea. I love and respect the kind of creativity around it, but I would like to see things kept a little bit more simple, just to get things off the ground a bit more. But things like this do make you stand out and gets people interested. So I can see why, but big risk, and I gotta respect taking that risk, so hopefully the weather holds out for him.
Yeah, it should be
provocative. It gets the people going.
Yeah, I love it. I'll tell you what else gets the people going, Andy. I'll move over to big news. Paul Hughes back at Cage Warriors Dublin, obviously going to share the card with James Sheen, who was also announced for the big title fight there as well. A couple of great additions there to that Cage Warriors Dublin card, which is really take shape. Now, we'll obviously break that down in full, maybe on the next episode or the one after that, if time allows us to. But James Sheen and Paul Hughes were the most recent announcements. Andy, share your thoughts on that. Obviously, Paul Hughes' last fight on his Cage Warriors contract. Things are going to get super interesting after this. Obviously, he has to go in and get the job done. First of all, and similar enough story with James Sheen, has his chance to become a world champion at Cage Warriors as well. Two great additions to the card.
Yeah, 100%. And the card needed some kind of top-heavy influx here. Very interesting that Paul Hughes is back. Obviously, you mentioned there the last fight in his deal. That's going to be the talking point and the focus here. The fight itself is you kind of just you expect Paul Hughes to go in here and get the job done and sail off into free agency. So I would fully expect Paul to come in, put on another solid performance. We know the level that he's at. And yeah, it's going to get very, very interesting very, very soon because the talk that I had heard was that Paul wasn't going to be on this Cage Warriors Dublin card. That's obviously changed. So any barriers after this are now removed. So we'll find out whether or not this UFC dream is going to happen, or if Paul Hughes was to become a PFL fighter, because realistically, those are the two options that we're looking at here for Paul. Delighted that I'm going to be able to see him compete again in person in Dublin. I think it's a great addition to the card. I think it'll help with interest in it. And I think that James Sheehan at the top of the card is a deserved title shot. Like the 170-pound division of Cage Warriors in a state of flux at the moment. Obviously, O'Meal Brown had that fight versus Janice Backer, who's now in the Tough House up at middleweight. I think that James was a no-brainer. I would have liked to have seen, and I'm nitpicking here, I would have liked to have seen maybe one of the lads who have competed already a number of times in Cage Warriors get the shot against Sheehan. I think like the likes of I had said around the two brothers. I always do this. I always forget the name. The lad Ian Garry fought Matthias Figlak. Now I've actually seen he's since pulled out of a fight with injury, I think. But there's him. There's Justin Burlinson as well. That was pointed out to me. There's a few lads there that I would have preferred to see James in against. But I do think this is an earned title shot for James Sheehan. And I think that it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for him and a solid headliner.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think this card will happen before we're scheduled to go on next, but I think it might be worth, lads, if we might come on and do a special on that card. Maybe we can do a one-off special on that card where we might go down and break it down, because we're a little bit tight for time today, obviously, and there is lots more fights on that card. So maybe, not to put you on the spot, but maybe something that kind of popped into my mind, maybe we might do, maybe we might not do. But
maybe a bonus episode, an extra,
Cage Warriors Dublin special perhaps might be on the cards before that, but it's a stacked card from top to tail, and leave it with us. We'll get back to you on that, or keep an eye out for maybe an earlier episode than we normally would have planned ahead of that card. A couple of other things that we want to run through before we finish up for today. A little bit of housekeeping on some events that are coming up. Obviously, we've got on March 30th the Cage Warriors London card, which features James Webb. March 30th also has Yanderson Castro, Taiwo Tibetan in an amateur fight, and Martin McNulty at Kong's FC2. Any information on that, Caoilte? Kong's FC2, where's that taking place?
I actually don't. I can't say the name of the
place.
The
local shipper.
It's off down in France somewhere. Some French card they're putting together, and some all right. It actually looks like an okay card. They're getting a good few names in for it. So good to see some Irish interest on it as well.
This is what you get in the old triangle. Yeah, Kong's some French card down somewhere. I don't have a fucking clue. There's some lad fighting.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about Ballykeep Amphitheatre instead. Who needs this, France?
Yeah. Is it inside or outside over there in France? But obviously, on busy day on March 30th, and we have Rhys and Caolan's fight as well. March 31st, we see the Virtus show. And Team Rhino Oma will be putting that on. Obviously, Saturday, April 6th, then is the big Cage Warriors Dublin card. I think we'll circle back around and talk about that a little bit more. Other quick news that we got to get you: a couple of fight announcements, couple of fight cancellations too that we have to. Paddy Rutledge, he takes on Antonio Santana at WOW 13.
That's actually on right now.
It's on right now as we're speaking, so maybe we can share.
The show is, so we'll share the results.
Whenever we can share the result for sure.
I just saw it there.
Anything else on the recent fight news there?
Who gives a fuck?
We're butchering the end of this here.
There's some fights on. You'll all figure it out. What do you want?
We got fight announcements for Gary Rooney, who's coming to take on James McAleese. Clown Wars Dublin on May 12th. We have a show announcing Cage Conflict 13 announced in Mayhem on May 18th. Our Fighting Championships goes down May 24th as well. Busy time. Andreas Binder returns back to Levels Fight League 12 in Amsterdam on April 21st. That's a little bit away. That fight was announced this past week against Victor Koku. And Dan O'Sullivan will have a fight tight at Goliath Fight Series 2. We'll have a breakdown of all those. We'll have a little bit more clarity on those fights maybe on the next episode of the Auld Triangle. But before we wrap it up, I'm going to hand it over to Andy Stevenson for the final say. Any final thoughts, Andy?
Oh Jesus!
I didn't want to go in. Normally, you always have to come in, and I think
final thoughts. This is I'm doing a Chuck Nindelhall here. Is it? Andy seems the final thoughts.
Jeez, I'm really after putting you on the hook here. Normally, when I try and wrap it up, Andy, in my defense, normally when I try and wrap it up, you do kind of come in. So I wanted to give you the opportunity.
What springs to mind? We talked about at the start. We've already kind of mentioned at the start, but shout out Ryan Curtis. Brilliant to see that post from him. And that is his strength and his courage and his positivity. Shout out to Kevin Moore, Carl Moore's dad. Stage 4 cancer is nothing to be, it's a scary diagnosis. So to come back and beat that, nothing but delight to hear that news. And yeah, that's all I really got. That's all.
Shout out to Capture for the hoodies. They're savage, great fit. And shout out to everyone for listening, and thanks for.
You know what else? I was in.
I was waiting for it.
Share a little story. Kiefer Crosby the bastard. I was out for Paddy's weekend there last weekend, and I was my brother-in-law was over. He's my wife's American, and we're bringing him around anyway. Went to the festival quarter. And I copped Kiefer was over. He was ordering a bag of chips. I think he was now. I don't know. He's getting some food, but I went up and started taking the piss, just being like, "Oh, are you that MMA fella or whatever?" I'm thinking I was hilarious, and I went on my way then, and I was walking around looking for food, and next thing I turned and there's a lad just level changing at me, and it scared the fucking bejesus out of me. Caught me on the hop. And Kiefer ran away laughing. So he got me good.
There you go. Sprawl and brawl, Andy Stevenson.
I was ready though. I had the underhook.
I tell you what, he probably second guessed halfway through. So no, fair play. And fair play, as I was saying, to everybody that's subscribed, liked, giving us a 5-star review as we said at the start of the podcast. We do appreciate the support. Want to help him grow the podcast. We'll be back the next time. Maybe, who knows when we'll be back? Maybe for the Cage Warrior special, maybe not. Maybe we put that out there into existence. So maybe we'll have to follow through on that now. I put that out into existence.
But we haven't talked about the cards, so we're gonna have to now.
We're going to have to now, yeah. So we'll be back soon. Thank you. Take care. Caoilte. See you out.
Go mean, Mahagwib, focus longer fall.